Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another Cutter Degrassiism, aka poll video. Now, this poll is one that I did not actually intend to do. No, shocking as it is, this person named Capital Study 6436 on the Degrassi Reddit posted something called Who's Degrassi's Biggest Doormat? And came up with 6 very good doormats, in a sense. Now, in the lexicon, a doormat is someone who is a good friend to someone else, but basically the friendships are not that great and all that. So, anyway, now 874 people voted on that poll, and the top 6. Hopefully, Capital Study will be okay with me doing this topic because I like this one, and I never thought about the doormat format, and this person did. All right, so anyway, there's 6 doormats on the poll. Well, of course, Reddit polls only give you 6 options. So anyway, number 6, according to the poll, was Katie with 19 votes out of 874 because of her massive friendship with Marisol. Now, admittedly, this is basically to do with the era of Degrassi that I didn't really watch because, after all, this was like pretty much after season 9, I stopped watching Degrassi and all that, and then came back to it by season 14. Well, the end of season 14. So yeah, it took a while. But the simple fact is that, yeah, Katie seemed to want to be with Marisol's friend and all that. Despite the fact that Marisol would do something bad to Katie and talk about Katie's eating disorder in a way to try to get Katie's momentum off in the student council president voting, which actually failed miserably. Funny thing about the Katie Marisol thing, it's actually going to be in another video that I will be creating today. So anyway, yeah. And, Katie sometimes seemed to be a person who was friends and would actually turn the other cheek a little too badly. The ironic thing is, in the poll that Capital Study did, at number 5 was Maya with 33 votes. And Maya, is Katie's sister. Maya was introduced as Katie's younger sister and as a cello virtuoso, which I guess after Cam's death, she stopped being that way and wanted to go into music, which is fine, but she wanted to be a soloist and be part of a band. The funny thing is, yeah, and then Maya, all that, because of her relationship with Tristan, being a doormat to Tristan. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of awkward and all that. Maya was Katie's younger sister, and then, Cam's death happened, and Maya went through the emotional problems, and we thought, okay, she's fine. But then a bus crash caused her to have feelings of suicide. It was like, what the hell? But anyway, yeah, Maya seemed to be a decent person. I mean, yeah, her relationship with Sake was not really good in my book. I mean, Sake only was interested in Maya when Maya was with like Miles and other guys, and when Maya was with Sake, Sake seemed to be disinterested. He even wanted to be with Zoe at times. But the simple fact is, Maya and Tristan's relationship was terrible. Like, they were a decent relationship. And then season 13, when Tristan was being groomed by Yates and Maya went through the 40s because it was the right thing to do, Tristan, upset with Maya, tells her off saying that, you have guys chasing you. Why can't you just leave me alone and all that? And Maya's like, I have to do the right thing. Tristan doesn't understand. They break off as friends. And then when they go to Paris and all that, I mean, in the next season, Tristan forces Maya to apologize to him. And Maya was in the right. Tristan was definitely in the wrong, and Tristan was just being a dick. But Maya didn't see it that way. Maya basically said that, she had to do what she had to do. But simply put, Tristan was a hot piece of garbage, if you will. And Maya, stuck her friendship with Tristan out. Of course, Tristan was one of the most terrible characters in Degrassi in a while. And, people actually cheered when he was in a coma. I mean, he's a bad person, but you don't cheer when someone's in a coma. Regardless of that, that's what happened. And funny thing is, the top 4 in this poll actually end up with more than 150 votes. So Katie and Maya combined 52 votes. If you multiply that by three, it actually just beats out number 4. But you can't do that. So anyway, number 4 with 154 votes in that poll was Ellie with her dysfunctional relationship with Jesse in her toxic one-side thing. No, Ellie's relationships are crazy and all that. Ellie was with Marco and all that in season two, and they were boyfriend girlfriend. But Ellie finds out that Marco's hiding his homosexuality, and Ellie, by season three, decides not to be um, Marco's beard. I don't know the term that much. I'm in my mid 30s, but as is, Ellie was that type of person. But then the simple fact is that Marco comes out being gay and all that. Ellie then finds love with Sean after serving Saturday detention with him, and they both connected. And Sean invited Ellie to stay at his student housing thing, and Ellie did so. Well, Ellie in season three had troubles because she was self-harming herself after her mom became alcoholic once her dad, a colonel in the army, went to Afghanistan, which is pretty huge. So Ellie had her problems and all that, her PTSD, if you will. But the simple fact is that, Ellie and Sean, they were both troubled people, all that. I think they were perfect for each other. And, you know, Ellie was upset when Sean left to go back to Wasaga in the wake of the Rick Murray situation. I mean, who can blame Sean? I mean, Sean was feeling guilt probably about Rick dying and all that, but I think the police would not, and he probably thought that the cops were going to go after him. But the cops would not have gone after him because if the cops went after him, he would have been a dead duck and was not allowed to leave Toronto at all. But the simple fact is that Ellie lost her boyfriend, and then Ellie was all by herself in the student housing thing still. And, she got to go home with her mom. Her mom got better and all that, and learned that Ellie needs to be a better person. And then, Ellie's relationships were huge. Like, she was with Craig for a while. She was with Jesse, who was a newspaper editor, and Jesse was with Caitlin, too. It was weird that Ellie would have a pick me mentality, as I think Aspen J said. And yes, I will be doing a video based on Aspen J's worst Degrassi characters. That would be tomorrow. But the simple fact is that Ellie, you know, was so crazy for Craig and all that, that, she was upset when Craig had a girlfriend. And then for some strange reason, Ellie decided to walk towards the Pacific Ocean in that Degrassi Goes Hollywood movie. Thankfully, Craig and Marco save her. Yeah, it was weird about Ellie and her pick me energy. Number three with 183 votes was Toby regarding JT and friendships. Toby and JT were the perfect friendship pairing in seasons one and two. They were both in a good loop with each other. They did stuff together. Like, the chemistry was there in the first episode of Degrassi Next Gen ever that, they met at camp, summer camp. JT was a nerd in a sense, but he was comic relief. Toby was just a normal geek who was going through I guess it's called a blended family dynamic because, now his dad is with Ashley's mom. And, Ashley and Toby were supposed to be probably the breakout characters in season one and should have been the breakout characters for Degrassi. But somehow they weren't. But the fact of the matter is that, Toby and JT's relationship was great and all that. JT did help Toby deal with his eating disorder in season two, which was one of the most underrated storylines ever because, they said that males could have eating disorders too. There's still a stigma about that too nowadays in 2023. But the simple fact is that, JT pushed Toby away in season three to hang out with Paige's crew and all that. And Toby gets JT in trouble by saying how JT had a wet dream about Liberty and all that at a sleepover. But yeah, so JT in season four stopped being Toby's friend and hung out with Danny, aka Liberty's brother, probably as a way to get to Liberty somehow. And then Toby was all by himself and all that. And all of a sudden, Rick was partnered with him for a few things, including Whack Your Brain. And Toby and Rick had that kissing contest. And, Toby usually won. But then, Rick seemed to be Toby's only friend. But although Toby hung out with Jimmy, Heather, and Emma because, the Whack Your Brain team. But the simple fact is that, Toby was there when Sean and Rick were fighting for the gun after Emma had the gun pointed at her. And Toby's PTSD was not really that well received and all that. That we didn't know much. Back in Black, it did talk about Toby's problems and all that, but it just had JT and Danny chiding him before Maddie tore JT to pieces. And then JT realized he needed to be there for Toby. And after Manny said that, if it wasn't for you and Webster, as in Danny's nickname, Toby would not have been close to Rick. And JT realized that he was right, that she was right, and hung on saying, it doesn't matter what I think about Rick. This should never have happened. And, he and Toby become friends again. And, they both nod in agreement with each other. But the simple fact is that, Toby was pretty much lost without JT. I mean, what good was Toby without JT and all that within the show? I mean, the show did Toby a lot dirty. And, JT and Toby had a good relationship in season 5 and 6. And then, Toby told JT to go after Liberty, try to see Liberty and all that. And then, unfortunately, Toby did not foresee JT being stabbed in the back by Drake Lampley, alongside Johnny DeMarco, who witnessed the whole thing. So Toby lost his best friend and was upset in the episode after that. And then basically, Toby was nothing. He was such a bad character. He was in season 7, but he was actually not in the opening credits. It was like, what the hell? But yeah, Toby, I feel, was bad and all that. Toby was so unknown, but by season 9, he had a stand-in. The actor had a stand-in for the beach wedding between Emma and Spin. So yeah, Toby was done dirty by the show in general. Him being a doormat, well, Toby wanted to be friends, and he had some personal problems. I mean, he was trying to get with Kendra, was there for a few years, and then Kendra was booted off the show by CTV executives. I don't know why. Racist much? Anyway, number 2 with 196 votes in that poll was Terry and her dysfunctional friendships with Ashley and Paige. This is definitely it. I personally would like to do a cut of Degrassi Unpopular Opinion on the biggest doormat and say capital studies thing and who should be the biggest doormat. But the number 1 person is kind of who I thought. Terry would be like 1B of all that. And the person who's number 1 is 1A. But yeah, Terry in the first, like if you did doormat and you took out season 7 onwards, Terry's number 1 for sure. Okay, so Terry, was in a friend clique with Ashley, Paige, and Hazel. They were mean girls in a sense. Terry basically had self-image issues and all that, and Paige got Terry drunk. I forgot that Paige was the reason why Terry got drunk and stumbled at the dance just to get Spinner. Paige is a mean girl and all that. But the simple fact is that, it seemed that Terry didn't really grow a backbone and all that and got out of Paige's shadow. I mean, with the whole thing with Ashley in season 2, Paige tells Terry and Hazel, hang out with me or hang out with Ashley. You'll be popular or you'll be an outcast. And for some strange reason, Terry and Hazel both chose the security of Paige's friend group. Security, of course, in quotations. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, Terry seemed to be that bad and all that. There were times that Terry actually got popular and, Paige was okay with it. But season 3 was when Terry was at her worst, in a sense. Terry, being in the relationship with Rick, and everyone thought that Rick was being controlling, manipulative, and Terry kind of was a doormat in that relationship, though, too. Fortunately, though, when Rick shoves her against the wall, remember, there was an episode in which he shoves her against the wall, by accident, mind you. Terry breaks it up with him, and then, everything's fine, and then Terry's invited to a road trip with Paige, Spinner, Jimmy, and Hazel, but she doesn't have anyone to go with. So she then goes to a trust exercise, deals with Rick, and then brings Rick around, and everyone wants to check up on Terry and Rick. Of course, Terry chases after an angry Rick after Paige chides Rick, and then she ends up being comatose after having her head hit by a rock. Although Rick didn't mean to do it, obviously. But the fact is that, Terry was around for a few episodes with her recovery, and then season 4, she's gone. Nobody even mentions what happened to her post-Rick situation and all that. They don't even say it in the real show episodes. And then, of course, that stupid deleted scene when Ratch says Terry's at private school. Good grief. It was a deleted scene. The writers did Terry dirty on that. But, yeah, say what you want about, Rick and how angry he was with the whole situation and bringing the gun to the school and all that. But one thing that Rick was right about, even though it was in his own freaking head was how Terry is treated by Paige. The viewer basically sees that, Terry, that Paige has Terry on a string, like a puppet on a string, if you will. And, I feel that way too. I feel Terry could have broken out from Paige's shadow, but Paige refused to. I think Paige was afraid that Terry would be more popular than her. Well, if she's a mean girl, then freak, who likes mean girls? Honestly. But the simple fact is that, yeah, Rick was right about Terry being pestered by Paige and being forced to be in Paige's friend group and all of that. But it's just the wrong way around it. And as usual, as I say in my videos, I don't know how many times I've said it. This is one of the most repeated lines I say. Is that, Terry's actress Christina Schmidt went to the same high school I did, Waterloo Oxford District Secondary School in Baden, Ontario, Canada. I must say Canada because a lot of Redditors are American. So yeah, so it's a small town just outside Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, where I am here nowadays. And we almost went to the high school at the same time, but we didn't graduate at the same time. I think she was 2 years younger than I am, and it shows you my age. But by far, number one in the poll was Anya. And I figured too, Anya was a doormat. I really hated how Holly J pressured Anya and all that. So we get to see Lakehurst merge with Degrassi in season 7, and we get to see some new characters like Sav and Mia and all them. But, Anya and Holly J were together. And it looked like Anya was dressing the same as Holly J and basically, being her twin in a way. But the fact of the matter is that there was a dark underbelly, that Holly J would play Anya for chumps. One time in season 7, she managed to get Anya in trouble for plagiarizing an essay that Holly J's sister, Heather Sinclair, wrote and all that. Anya was against it, but Holly J said, yeah, that's okay, it's fine. But then Holly J basically blasts Anya, pushes Anya to the side and gets Anya into deep trouble and all that. Anya finally snaps after Holly J one too many times gets mad at her. I mean, Holly J uses her, and Anya basically says, why do you always push me around? Holly J says, because you let me, which is kind of a way for Holly J to try to back out of being confronted by Anya. The simple fact is Anya had a point. And then, Anya blasted Holly J. Holly J refused to go lying down, basically insulting Anya, saying that, I have no friends and all that. You did this to yourself. But yeah, Anya and Holly J still were a friendship by season 8 and all of that. And it looked like Anya was just basically to Holly J what Terry was to Paige. Someone who clung on to a popular girl just to be popular and not be an outcast. That's what I feel. And the fact about Anya is that, I kind of figure she was a bigger doormat. I mean, I look at how Holly J pushes Anya around and how Anya doesn't really push back. Anya tries her best to get out of Holly J's shadow, but sometimes she can't. And Holly J takes advantage of it, especially in season 10 when Holly J was trying to be student council president and wanted Holly J to Anya to sabotage Sav's thing by saying that she's pregnant with Sav's kid. After all, we all knew that Anya and Sav were together. But Anya turned it around and said that, we lost the baby and all that. Got the sympathy for Sav, and guess what? Sav wins the election. Holly J is pissed off. And Anya, I think, blasts her high and dry. I mean, Holly J kind of does get a redemption arc somehow, but the simple fact is Anya tries her best in relationship with Sav and Owen and all them. Makes good friendships, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And Anya seems to be a doormat. And then she goes to the army. And although the army is a decent place, all I can think of is how, this is very Flanderization. Is that, Anya is good at taking orders. And I'm thinking, that's a doormat move. And that's perfectly why Anya is a doormat. So again, thank you to the original person who did this one, the OP, who did this one so that I could do it and I could do it some justice. So great job, Capital Study. I think it was Capital Study. If I messed it up, I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Thanks for watching.